often hear this phrase paradigm and paradigm shift in many contexts. Now, that particular phrase was coined by a brilliant physicist by name Thomas Kuhn in his landmark book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, which he published in the year 1962. I think it is very important for us to understand what a paradigm shift is. Now, I was curious how he even came up with this idea. It turns out that Thomas Kuhn was looking at Aristotle's ideas. We all know that Aristotle is one of the most brilliant people ever to have lived. But Thomas Kuhn found his ideas on physics to be absurd. And then he later realizes it's because Aristotle didn't have the concept of mechanics in his work, which was later to be done by Newton. That is why Aristotle's ideas were looking absurd. And that starts his research into science and how it evolves, and he comes up with the concept of paradigm shift. Now, in our context, are all breakthrough innovations paradigm shifts? For example, is a smartphone a paradigm shift? To understand that, let's take one more example from this book. In the early 1700s, scientists thought that there is a component called phlogiston, which is inside materials, which allows it to burn. And when the material burns, the phlogiston is released into the air. Now, that was all fine and dandy until a scientist by name Antoine Lavoisier started experimenting with gunpowder. And as he burnt metals, he found that the ashes were heavier than the metal. Now, scientists with the phlogiston view, they were looking at it and trying to come up with the absurd idea that phlogiston has negative weight. So, when it is removed, the weight of the original material increases. And they were actually trying to prove that. Lavoisier later on proves that it is the oxygen in the air that combines with the material that is burning and forms oxides, which are obviously heavier than the base metal itself. And he goes on to formulate the theory of elements and how materials are made of elements, which changes chemistry forever, and he is known as the father of modern chemistry. So clearly, smartphone doesn't do any of this. So there is a hidden crisis. The phlogiston and the associated crisis was hidden from public view but known to some scientists, and after the theory of elements, everything changes. Similarly, Louis Pasteur's germ theory. Before that, we didn't know that germs cause diseases. After that, everything changes in medicine. So, these are some of the key criteria for something to be called paradigm shift. Now, some people call the COVID crisis a paradigm shift for remote working, but I think it just accelerates already an existing trend of remote working. And I have been in the offshore outsourcing industry for the last 30 years, and this is just accelerating a pre-existing trend. Now, we are faced with a couple of major hidden crises, we can say. Just in the last 12 to 18 months, the global 2000 spent $1.2 trillion on digital transformation, of which 900 billion has gone to waste. And I recently came across an interesting statistic that there are 57,136 books on leadership with the word leadership in its title. And if you take related concepts, psychology, mindsets, neuroscience, behaviors, probably you will have 250,000 books. Why do we need that many books to describe leadership? So clearly there is a crisis here. And I think the paradigm shift that is happening is the shift from topic-based to phenomenon-based. And as I explained before, tiny magic by a series of lucky accidents has gotten into this model of learning. So if we are conscious of this, we can be at the front end of this paradigm shift. Because I think digital transformation and more broadly transformation itself should be the function of leadership. And that is the phenomenon we have to make happen. And we can easily do that, attempt to do that through a phenomenon-based learning model than the topic-based learning models that we use today.